Your grandparents bought a house at 25. Your parents scraped by at 30. You? You're 35, making more money than both of them combined, and you're still renting, still making someone else rich, still wondering if you'll ever own anything. This isn't bad luck. This isn't your fault. And this isn't just happening to you. Toronto to Tokyo, Sydney to Stockholm, an entire generation, your generation, is being systematically locked out of home ownership, on purpose, by people who are profiting billions from your rent checks. I'm Max, and in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly who's stealing your future, how they're doing it, and why they're never going to stop unless we force them to. I expose the financial systems designed to keep you poor while making the rich richer, the games governments and corporations play with your money. If you want to understand why you're working harder than your parents but own less, subscribe right now. This isn't financial advice, this is financial warfare, and you're losing. By minute 12, I'm going to name the corporations that own hundreds of thousands of homes they'll never live in, the same ones using algorithms to price you out. Stay with me. Let's rewind to when housing actually made sense. 1960s. You worked a normal job, saved for a few years, bought a house. Simple. A typical home cost 2 to 3 times your annual salary. One salary. A teacher could buy a house. A factory worker could buy a house. A nurse could buy a house. The math worked. After World War II, the US government launched the GI Bill. Veterans got access to affordable home loans. The message was crystal clear. Home ownership is a right for everyday people, not a luxury for the elite. Then everything changed. Fast forward to today. The average US house costs 5 to 6 times the median household income. That's 2 people working. In major cities, 8, 9, 10 times annual earnings. The math doesn't just not work, it's impossible. But the real transformation goes deeper than price inflation. But somewhere along the way, we stopped thinking about houses as homes and started treating them as assets. Properties became retirement portfolios. Real estate turned into a get-rich strategy. The family home morphed into a wealth-building vehicle. And once that mindset took root, everything changed. People who bought early watched their property values multiply. They felt smart, rewarded. So they bought second homes, third homes, investment properties. Each purchase pushed prices higher, making it harder for the next generation to enter. Developers noticed this shift. If houses are investments now, why build modest starter homes? Build luxury properties instead. Bigger margins, wealthier buyers, higher returns. Those affordable 3-bedroom houses your parents bought? Extinct. Developers don't build them anymore because they're not profitable enough. We fundamentally redesigned what housing means. And once you change the purpose of something, you change everything about how it works. But it gets darker. There are invisible forces keeping supply artificially low. On purpose. Chapter 2 reveals the 3 ways they're strangling supply while you compete for scraps. Here's something that breaks basic economics. In most markets, when demand drops, prices fall. Can't sell your inventory? Lower the price. That's how cars work. Electronics, almost everything. But housing, prices keep climbing even when buyers disappear. How is that possible? Let me show you the invisible barriers keeping supply artificially low. Barrier number 1, the zoning trap. Picture a city with limited land. Planners carved it up decades ago. Houses here, businesses there, green space here, industrial zone there. Sounds organized. Except populations grow, economies change, cities evolve. But those zoning rules? Frozen in time, written 40, 50 years ago. In wealthy neighborhoods especially, zoning laws actually prohibit building apartments or duplexes. Only single-family homes allowed. This artificially limits how many people can live in that area, keeping prices elevated. And here's the kicker. When developers do get approval to build, some don't even start construction. They just sit on it. This is called land banking, holding empty lots, waiting for property values to rise even more before breaking ground. Calculated delay, profitable for them, catastrophic for supply. Barrier number 2, construction bottlenecks. Let's say a developer actually wants to build. Great, except now they're entering a bureaucratic maze. Permits take months or years. Materials cost more than projected. Labor shortages delay everything. Then a lawsuit pops up. Neighbor disputes, environmental review, permit challenges, projects stall, budgets explode, timelines stretch indefinitely. Drive through any growing city and you'll see them. Half-finished buildings wrapped in plastic, frozen construction sites, abandoned frameworks, ghost projects, homes that should exist but don't. And when developers do push through these obstacles, they build what's most profitable. Luxury condos and high-end townhouses, starter homes regular people need, not worth their time. Barrier number 3, the phantom inventory. Now here's something wild. In many cities, homes are sitting completely empty, not being renovated, not waiting for tenants, just vacant. Investors buy them as pure financial instruments. They don't care about renting them out. They're speculating on appreciation, betting that in 5 years the property will be worth 30% more so they can flip it for profit. Shadow inventory, zombie houses, they're everywhere. In some cities, 10 to 15% of properties are vacant investment vehicles, while families are homeless or paying absurd rents. The system is designed to keep supply low and prices high. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now let me introduce you to your new landlord, except it's not a person. It's a corporation with a stock ticker and shareholders to satisfy. Chapter 3 is where you meet the villains. Remember when landlords were actual people? Maybe an older couple who owned a duplex. Maybe someone who inherited a property and rented it out for extra income. You knew their name. You could call them directly. That world is fading fast. Today, there's a very real chance your landlord isn't a person at all. It's a corporation. Wall Street discovered housing. And once finance entered the game, everything changed. Giant investment firms, Blackstone, Invitation Homes, American Homes for Rent, now own hundreds of thousands of single-family homes. We're not talking about apartment buildings here. We're talking about regular suburban houses that used to be owned by families. These companies don't buy homes to live in them. They buy homes to extract maximum profit from them. And they're very, very good at it. They use algorithms to optimize rent prices. They buy in bulk, often paying cash, which lets them outbid regular families who need mortgage approvals. They can afford to overpay for individual properties because they're playing a portfolio game. One house is just one tiny piece of a massive investment strategy. And it's not just institutional investors. Regular people saw this trend and jumped in too. Data shows that roughly 1 in 4 homes sold today goes to an investor rather than someone who's going to live there. Think about what that means. If you're a first-time buyer competing for a house, you're not just up against other families. You're competing with cash offers from corporations and wealthy individuals who see that house as just another line item in their portfolio. Then came the short-term rental explosion. Airbnb and similar platforms created a new way to monetize housing. Buy a property, furnish it nicely, and rent it to tourists by the night instead of locals by the month. For property owners, the math is compelling. Renting to tourists can bring in 2 to 3 times more income than a traditional lease. So entire neighborhoods have been converted into de facto hotel districts. In cities like Barcelona, Venice, and Lisbon, locals have literally been pushed out of their own communities. Properties that used to house residents now cycle through tourists every few days. The housing stock is the same, but it's no longer available to people who actually live and work there. Residents in Barcelona have taken to the streets in protest. They're holding signs that say, "Tourism kills neighborhoods," and "Homes for living, not for profit." They're not anti-tourist, they're anti-displacement. Your housing crisis isn't just about supply and demand, it's about who gets to compete for what's available. And right now, everyday people are losing that competition to those with deeper pockets and different incentives. But don't worry, politicians and financial experts will tell you it's your fault. Chapter 4 exposes the blame game keeping you trapped. If you've ever mentioned struggling to afford housing, someone's probably told you it's your fault. Stop eating out so much. Work harder, skip the vacations. Maybe don't buy that latte every morning. The implication is always the same. If you were more responsible, more disciplined, more frugal, you'd own a home by now. Let's put that narrative to rest with actual numbers. Housing prices have risen drastically faster than wages. Even if you cut every single discretionary expense, even if you save aggressively, the target keeps moving away from you. You're running on a treadmill where someone keeps cranking up the speed. It's not about avocado toast, it's about a market that's broken. And when politicians try to help, they often make things worse. Governments love announcing first-time homebuyer programs, tax credits, down payment assistance, special grants. It sounds compassionate. But here's what actually happens. These programs increase the number of people who can afford to bid on homes, but they don't increase the number of homes available. So you've just added more buyers chasing the same limited inventory. Prices get bid up even higher. It's like giving everyone in a crowded auction an extra $10,000 without adding more items to bid on. The seller benefits. The auction house benefits. The buyers just pay more. Then there's the homeowner paradox. Existing homeowners often oppose new housing developments in their neighborhoods. They'll show up to city council meetings and argue against apartment buildings, denser zoning, or affordable housing projects. Why? Because they want to protect their property values. More supply means lower prices, and their home is their biggest asset. They have a financial incentive to keep supply restricted. But here's the contradiction. Many of these same homeowners complain that their own children can't afford to buy homes. They want affordability for their kids, but don't want anything that would actually create affordability, because that would hurt their own net worth. You can't have it both ways, but politically this tension keeps us stuck. And then there's the mortgage trap. Even people who manage to scrape together a down payment face increasingly strict lending requirements. You need perfect credit, significant income verification, months of documented savings, low debt-to-income ratios. Jump through all those hoops, and you're rewarded with decades of monthly payments that consume 30 to 50% of your income. Interest rate fluctuations mean those payments can suddenly spike. Property taxes rise, maintenance costs add up. Home ownership becomes a financial tightrope walk. In major cities, renters routinely spend 35 to 45% of their income just on rent, well above the recommended 30% threshold. But even when they make it and buy, they're often just trading rent payments for mortgage payments that leave them equally stretched. The system feels rigged because it is rigged. It's set up to benefit those who already own while making it nearly impossible for newcomers to break in. So can we fix this disaster, or are we just documenting the decline? Chapter 5 reveals the solutions that exist and why politicians refuse to use them. All right, let's talk solutions. Can we actually fix this, or are we just watching it burn? The answer is yes, we can fix it, but it requires political courage that's currently in short supply. Here are the tools that experts say would actually work. Solution number 1, land value taxation. Instead of taxing buildings and land together, you only tax the land itself, regardless of what sits on it. Empty lot, same tax as a developed property. Why does this matter? Because it punishes land hoarding. If you're paying hefty taxes on empty land, you're incentivized to either build on it or sell it to someone who will. It discourages speculation and promotes development. It's not perfect, but it changes the incentive structure in a powerful way. Solution number 2, zoning reform. Rewrite those outdated rules that block density. Allow duplexes, triplexes, and small apartment buildings in areas currently restricted to single-family homes. This doesn't mean bulldozing suburban neighborhoods. It means giving people the freedom to build more housing where people actually want to live. More units mean more supply. More supply means downward pressure on prices. Some cities are already experimenting with this. Minneapolis eliminated single-family zoning entirely. Tokyo has flexible zoning that allows housing almost anywhere. The results? More affordable housing. Solution number 3, restrict corporate buying. Ban or heavily restrict corporations from buying single-family homes. If you're not a human being who's going to live in the house, you can't buy it, or you face massive tax penalties. This levels the playing field. Families shouldn't have to compete with billion-dollar investment funds that can make all-cash offers above asking price. Solution number 4, tax investment properties heavily. If you own multiple homes, your tax burden should escalate dramatically with each additional property. This discourages hoarding and speculation. First home, normal taxes. Second home, higher taxes. Third, fourth, fifth, The tax rate becomes punitive. This frees up inventory for first-time buyers instead of letting investors accumulate portfolios. So why aren't we implementing these solutions right now? Because politically, they're toxic. Here's the uncomfortable truth. About 65% of Americans already own homes. That's the majority. And those homeowners benefit from rising prices. Their wealth is tied up in their property values. If you're a politician and you propose policies that would lower home prices, you're threatening the financial security of most voters. That's political suicide. Even among people who acknowledge the housing crisis, many secretly think, yes, it's terrible, but please don't crash my home value. There's another danger too. A sudden price collapse could trigger economic catastrophe. People who bought recently at peak prices would find themselves underwater, owing more on their mortgage than the house is worth. This happened in 2008, and it devastated millions of families. So we're trapped between two bad options: keep prices high and lock out younger generations, or crash prices and potentially trigger financial ruin for recent buyers in an economic recession. But here's the really depressing data point. In 2020, about 40% of new homes sold in the US were priced under $300,000, affordable for median income families. By 2024, that dropped to just 16 to 23%, depending on the region. That's not a gradual shift. That's a collapse in affordable housing construction. Builders have essentially abandoned the entry-level market. Unless we fundamentally restructure the system, renting won't be a temporary phase. It will be the permanent reality for an entire generation. Home ownership, once considered a basic milestone of adulthood, is becoming a luxury reserved for the wealthy or those who inherit property. We've turned the dream of homeownership into a fantasy most people will never afford, and we did it on purpose. So here's where we are. Housing became an investment instead of a necessity. Supply was deliberately restricted. Corporations muscled into the market. Prices decoupled from wages. And politicians are too scared to do anything meaningful about it. This isn't about personal responsibility or avocado toast or working harder. This is about a system that was redesigned to benefit those who already have wealth while squeezing out everyone else. The game is rigged, and unless we change the rules, it's only going to get worse. Your generation will be the first in modern history to be poorer than your parents. Not because you're lazy, not because you're irresponsible, but because the system was deliberately restructured to extract wealth from you and transfer it upward. Every month, your rent check goes to someone who already owns multiple properties. Someone who's building wealth off your inability to build wealth. That's not capitalism, that's feudalism with extra steps. And the people profiting from this, they're not going to give it up voluntarily. Why would they? They're making billions. Your housing crisis is their investment portfolio. So what can you do? First, stop blaming yourself. This isn't your fault. The math is broken, and no amount of budgeting or side hustles will fix a system designed to keep you out. Second, get political. Vote for candidates who support zoning reform, corporate buying restrictions, and land value taxation. Show up to city council meetings. Make noise. The only reason this continues is because homeowners are louder than renters. Third, if you can buy, do it, even if it's painful, even if you're stretching. Because in this rigged system, the only way to stop losing is to get in the game. Buy the smallest, cheapest place you can afford. Build equity. Don't let perfect be the enemy of home ownership. And fourth, understand what's happening. Share this information. Most people don't realize they're being systematically excluded. They think it's personal failure. It's not. It's structural theft. The housing market isn't a free market. It's a rigged game where the rules were written by people who already own property to ensure they stay wealthy while you stay renting. And until we force those rules to change, this will only get worse. If you want me to break down the 2008 housing crash, explain why rent control fails, or dive into which countries are actually solving this problem, let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want more financial truth that nobody else will tell you. Next video, how the Federal Reserve is making you poorer while telling you the economy is great. You'll need to see it. I'm Max. The system is rigged, but knowledge is the first step to fighting back. Stop renting their lies. Start owning the truth.